Good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. I welcome you, and I just want to be the first person, hopefully not the last today, to tell you you are so needed and so valuable in this world. Even if per se you have a lot of behaviors that I would subscribe to as not healthy per se, not for me, etc. You absolutely are so powerful and you have infinite possibility and change. I never will underestimate a good redemption arc. I'm absolutely here for it. In fact, if you look at my history, be it lovers, friends, that's how I roll. It's been me, but it's helped me grow. I'm here and I'm grateful. And here's to you. I know in my last video, it's been a minute. I've been at such a place of adversity. Excuse me, in multiple ways. Hydrate, water. I have, in my last video I mentioned I had to bury a loved one. I ended up having a whole new position, transition, change at work. So that's been really, really neat too. My first day was very, very challenging. Nothing worked. Nothing worked as it should. And it was beautiful though, because I'd been in a less stressful predicament even like a year and a half ago. And because of maybe the people that were in my life, and as much as they wanted to support me and they were trying to support me, I mean, I want to hope. Unfortunately, I've had to cut ties because some people's behaviors and whatnot have not aligned with their actions. So I choose to believe that they tried to show up the best that they could. But because I was not maybe getting the type of support that I needed, something that might have even been like 10% of the day that I had could have been enough to just be my undoing. And it's 3 cheers for progress. We keep moving forward. And I think that is so much of why I do what I do. It's my testimony. So many people, it's funny. I took some extra time just because I wanted to make sure that my heart wasn't necessarily just bitter. And it's funny because I'm not, but people will make of your moves and your tone, your words, they're going to make it whatever they make it. I think the people for you are the people that are going to give you the benefit of the doubt, kind of ask where you're coming from. Remember that you're not necessarily trying to harm them, give you your humanity, etc. And it's such a beautiful world. It's so easy for me sometimes to just match energies, like the dominance and aggression, because I don't like bullies. And I have experienced a lot of trauma in my life. And it takes a lot to heal from that. And first and foremost, to not necessarily see these types of dynamics everywhere because they occurred. But then more importantly, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that we can sometimes, without even meaning to, act out some of the trauma that we receive because it's normal. And well, it's normalized for us. And I speak to that because of just even mass societal constructs, just the ways that we're peopling. I know sometimes in my videos, I've been perceived just because I see so differently as perhaps being unhappy or angry or hateful, bitter. And it's crazy to me, to be completely honest, because there's such an ego and an inability of the observer to kind of step back. And at that point, though, when someone's observing you, they're not even in a headspace to necessarily hear it. And a lot of people say, oh, but you could be calm, whatever. I have been attempting to practice nonviolent communication for a very long time. I also, for years, let me be specific because I was like, a really long time with that girlfriend. At least 4 or 5 years now. But in my own ego, to be completely honest with you, I have this propensity because I believe in the power of redemption, and I understand that everybody deserves love and that everybody is capable of change. I have perhaps neglected myself, just not honored myself, protected myself in the ways that I could. Because that's one thing that I'm always trying to do. So much of the world these days, I guess that's what kills me, is all the advertisement. You need this to be better. You need this to blah, blah, blah. You are frigging strong. You are powerful. You are unstoppable. How do I know? Because your heart is still bleeding. Whether you're a person of faith or science, in the Bible, it talks about it. The angels were so pissed that we were so powerful and had free will, they waged a war. Although, technically speaking, that's not my particular brand of Christianity, but that is what some of Christianity would tell you. Science would tell you, again, just even vibratory atoms, etc. We don't necessarily think so, but let's say, I don't want you looking at me right now. I'm going to change that. So that's my point. Sometimes it might just be less palpable choices, not necessarily things we want to do, but I am a big practitioner of Stoicism, a la Marcus Aurelius. What is ironic is that, like, the verbiage, like, to be stoic, it almost indicates that, like, you don't have feelings or you don't tap into your feelings, but humans' language. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but... Sorry, that's going to be the name of this video. Correct me if I'm wrong. I hope to at some point possibly segue into like conflict avoidance and how I have observed that that's really harming our human dynamics and how we interact with people. But we'll see. You know me. So the spirit moves. I am, as I said, it's really just more doing different things because I see so much going on in this world and it's taking us away from ourselves. So, for example, you've heard me mention how I don't necessarily like celebrity and these big industries that cause not only gross inflation, but take away from our personal power. And again, it's one of those where people are like, oh, well, she's bitter. She must not like blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be whatever I'm going to be to you guys anyway. And no offense, I'm not going to try and change your mind because I know who I am. All I can tell you is that I too sometimes will subscribe to music. I love music. I mentioned learning to play the guitar. I sing all the time. Media. I love reading and I love books, but it's more that it's all distraction, if that makes sense. And we are losing our ability to just be with ourselves, happy, sad, to just feel our feelings, which is so much of the human experience. Emotional regulation is so important. Again, just going back to this day where nothing worked. It's what's called a go live. I transitioned to a completely new job skills, and technically just actually like an entirely new region. And nothing worked. Nothing. And I was able to just kind of breathe through it and get maybe one program to work. I would get on the phone with IT for a little bit, just able to force updates on certain things and just kept breathing through it and was just like, the day's gonna end. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. And it's important that we understand that we are capable of that. I'm starting to just see so much, and it's very interesting because so much it's just felt even, and to speak on it is just, it does it such a disservice. It's such a pale imitation, but I know that I like spreading joy. I like helping people think. I like helping people connect with themselves. And when we idolize celebrity or these storytellings, all of these different things that are life imitating art, or I should say art imitating life, but it's life imitating art, imitating life, you are magical and you are wonderful. So I recently revisited The Never-Ending Story, the movie. Fantastic book as well. And I definitely, I don't want to say I recommend. There's such ego in that, right? I enjoyed it very much. And I think that there's some wonderful allegories. There are just some wonderful lessons and morals. There's so much esoteric just knowledge. It's a lot of allegory just for our own journeys and just incorporating self and just being our best selves. And the journey to coming back to self and agency. And particularly just even like the Gromek speech and the darkness and the apathy. And I might suggest everybody take a moment, if you're so inclined, to revisit that movie, or even just watch Gromek's speech. It's wonderful. We are struggling as a society, and I use the royal we because I do believe that until we are all, healthy and hale in our hearts with who we are, we're struggling. It's funny, I've joked in previous videos about being like antisocial and what have you, but no, that's actually not the case. I've just, through experience with people, learned that I have to be responsible. Nobody else should necessarily have to take care of my emotions. But if they want to align with me, to at least honor my experience and my boundaries, and to care how they affect me, and to want to be responsible for their behaviors in the ways that they affect me. Because as far as I see it at this point, to not is kind of narcissism. It's funny, I've had this reoccurring theme, and it's really made me kind of come face to face with my own ego, in needing to maybe be understood or maybe just cared for. I've actually cut quite a few people off recently, because if you care about me, I understand that you're having a hard time. You don't necessarily know that I'm the kind of person where if I'm having the worst time of my entire life, but you tell me that you are having a hard time, I put it on the back burner. Because it is empowering to give of yourself, to step outside of yourself. And it's not that I would ever expect or anticipate anybody to do the same in that instance, but there have just been multiple instances lately. And I don't know if it's regional, to be honest. I'm a transplant to the Midwest, and I don't know if it's because all of these people coincidentally happen to be Midwestern. I don't know if it's an ethnic thing, because they're all of European types of ancestry. I don't know if it's because, like attracts like, and people who have experienced pain and trauma understand other people who have experienced pain and trauma. And it's unfortunate sometimes, because I've been met with a lot of, I can't. And it was really easy at first to get really hurt and to not feel loved, versus now just kind of being a place where it's like, you loved me the best that you could. We got to go our separate ways, because you can't be what I need. But, it's because it's everything. They are being selfish, but they're also not selfish for other people who don't necessarily want deep connection and don't want to be emotionally available. Plus, we have to take care of ourselves. But I find it ironic that these people also tend to be very, very sad and very unhappy all the time. And I did happen to notice, and part of it's my ego, right? I shouldn't feel good by helping them feel good. It feels good. And I really had to sit with that, because I'm like, wow, am I just the biggest a-hole ever that's just getting my dopamine hits? Because look at me making life easier for them. And I had to sit with that, honestly. And there might be some truth. I mean, that is human nature, right? Naturally, it feels good to help people. It's for me, I'm glad to know that I am alleviating suffering. But then for me, it also got to the deeper, again, you heard that, alleviating suffering. But I'm a practicing Buddhist. So then I even had to sit with karma. And what sucks so much is potentially in alleviating someone's suffering in one particular way, I could actually be hindering their lessons. They might have to learn that now in a much heavier way, because I got involved. So as much as I could lament and piss and moan and be like, oh my God, they didn't love me, I wasn't loving them the best either. And while it's true, unconditionally, this, that, I would ride for them, I would do whatever, we outgrew each other. And I think a lot of that probably comes from conflict avoidance. And I see it. I am part of my big issue, and it's funny because a lot of people would think that I am, because I'm so talky, that I'm just so quick to just like jump in and always speak to things, but I don't. I'm very much a 3 strikes kind of person, or I'll make like a joke like, oh, that didn't necessarily seem kind, and just leave it at that, instead of just being like, hey. So I don't find that to be kind. I don't necessarily care for that type of behavior, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's who you're going to want to be, maybe it's not nice of me to ask you to change, and I'm not specifically asking you to change, or just whatever. Like, let's say that you are the type of person that you want to ask them to change, or let's say one of your boundaries is, I don't want to tolerate that behavior. There's a real truth that you then are actually, funnily enough, kind of the intolerable one, but boundaries. But that's just it, the conflict avoidance. I should have just said something instead of maybe just taking it and then eventually just being like, you've stepped on my boundaries. And I think, funnily enough, in some of these dynamics, the other people potentially were not necessarily, and I'd observed that in other ways, just how they were kind of maybe potentially people-pleasing dynamics, what have you. And that just does us such a disservice. Not to shadow echo chambers, but I guess I would just pose a question. How real can any connection that you have be if you are not able to healthily resolve conflict? And truly, educate yourselves. And hopefully you understand when I say educate yourself, stupid, because that is not what I'm saying even slightly. I mean, because I can only speak to you based off of what I've experienced, having experienced it, because I'm me, and while it is true and right, you still will need to kind of interpret it for yourself. But healthy conflict, being able to tell your truth, state your piece, be honest, and then find ways to come to agreement, compromise, etc. That is true healthy connection. So as far as like even me believing myself to be antisocial, it's not. Not even slightly. It's that in my 40 plus years on this earth, and I need to stop. It's not that there's anything wrong with that, aging. I own it because I love it, honestly. It's just more, I think of Prince, and he's just like, I've had one birthday. I've only celebrated one birthday. So it is true, to a certain extent. But in my 40 plus years now on this earth, I've yet to experience a dynamic where people haven't, at certain points, been masking. And because it's a fine line, right? Where is it like masking and conflict avoidance versus trying to be considerate and maybe not hurt someone's feelings? That's just it, my loves. I can't hurt your feelings. You can't hurt my feelings. I can be hurt because of something that you do and how it's interpreted and whatnot, but you can't hurt my feelings. You can hurt me if you punch me, if you stab me. And I mean, hell, for some people, it's no kink shaming. Are you hurting me? But you can't hurt my feelings. And it sounds kind of nuts, right? But it really, unfortunately, it is our brain. It's our brain and it's our ego. Language is a good one. And this bites me in the butt. I mentioned in my last video how once upon a time I was that kind of person where if you're like, oh my God, shut up, I'd be like, that is so rude. You're not trying to shut your friend up. Why aren't you even thinking about what you're saying? Be mindful of your language. And I try to be very, very mindful of my language. Here's the thing. Worst part, even then, younger and being ignorant, I still wasn't necessarily trying to control them. I was just trying to be like, hey, let me hold this mirror up so you can see how you are, okay? Because it really, as much as it was that deep, because I really wanted them to kind of be aware of how they were coming off. It's not like I didn't want to do anything to them about it, because other way, live and let live. I might not want to hang out with you as much if you think this is cool and you're going to keep doing it, but like, okay, so be it. So, and it's interesting because just getting caught into other energies, what have you, etc. It's so easy to be so strangely like closed off in my views and whatnot. And I think that's also kind of why I've been stepping back a bit. A lot of people aren't necessarily listening because they want to, sorry, got a notification. A lot of people aren't necessarily listening because they want to understand where you're coming from. And I think that we pick up on that, to be honest with you, like that resistance. And then that's potentially where then it becomes about the right, wrong, cognitive dissonance. There's so much. It's such a wild world. And it's incredible. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. Conflict avoidance. One of the things in my dynamics that I've really observed and noticed that had been a reoccurring theme, like I said, I hadn't necessarily just initiated the conflict myself, but then in certain instances, so let's say I would take it, and not say anything. So that finally when I'm like, you've been doing this for a while and it's really bothering me because the other people were potentially emotionally avoidant themselves, not understanding they too should just speak on things when they're bothering them, and also not necessarily being in the healing process of needing to initiate boundaries and learning to have this language and to speak on it. They would then counter my expression of frustration, my boundary, with then, well, let me hold you accountable. So let's talk about timing for a second. Again, I'm not saying there's any right or wrong way to do anything. I'm just going to speak to certain dynamics that I've had, why it didn't work for me, and hopefully some of this might bleed over and you might see. Correct me if I'm wrong. Also, feel free to comment, share your thoughts, because, we're all in this together. And my way is not the most right, even though sometimes my way I think is the most right for me. I like to incorporate new things. I'm ever growing and evolving and changing. Isn't that the point of life? So, in that, it isn't necessarily appropriate. It's sort of like, and let's take it sideways like a dog analogy. Not that the other person is the dog, but in that moment, let's say someone yelled at me. It would be like the dog peeing right in front of me and me saying, hey, bad dog, you just peed. So then this person, and feeling that, can just be like, yeah, I peed, and they won't take it and want to absorb and hear that. Not understanding that once 100%, let's nullify that. After that, after the wronged party, the person issuing that boundary, once they feel good, once you check in, you make sure they're good, check, see if that's a good time. But honestly speaking, if you're not just talking about the dog peeing when the dog pees, you're not being the best dog owner. And people are not dogs, to be clear. But hopefully you see where I am with the analogy. If you're not speaking on things right away, you're not speaking to fresh things. But more importantly, you're kind of a liar. Because and I realized I was picking up on these weird cues, and I thought I was kind of crazy because I couldn't necessarily have these dialogues with these people. And it was only in kind of unpacking with it and sitting with it that it's like, wow, no, it makes sense. You can't trust people. So again, to be clear, I wasn't necessarily the most trustworthy, as much as I wanted to think that, and I want to own that. Although, to be fair, and not that I'm trying to justify it, as I said, I speak on things so much so that I think I'm sure I might make a comment like, well, that wasn't really kind. I wasn't speaking on it clearly, but I was speaking on it. So even in that particular, we're not exactly the same, but we do things the same way. Funnily enough, psychologically speaking, this is the bitterest pill to swallow, and you don't necessarily have to believe me. Like I said, don't believe anything I tell you, not because I'm lying to you, but because, again, it's only mine because I'm me, and it is this way, and I'm just sharing with you because I want it to resonate. Again, I'm not selling you anything, I'm not buying you anything. I love you unconditionally. I don't even know you. The world is shock and rife full of people that will tell you to hate. They'll tell you how we're all so different, bang bang, smash smash. And I will tell you absolutely not. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not such a pacifist where, unfortunately, if you were to come and attack me, I don't know that I could just lay down and take it. I am a bad practicing Buddhist like that. Especially because there are other people. And if all else fails, is why I might potentially be so inclined to fight for myself to kind of help fight for other people. Honestly, if we were the last two people on the earth and it was proven, I might. If we are going to be completely honest, if it was definitively Hunger Games stuff, but the last two people and not a competition, real life, I might just be fine, this is gonna bring you peace. What does that say about me? Don't think that I don't value my life. In fact, it's actually the complete opposite. I've been accused of being incredibly narcissistic myself. because of my standards and the fact that, unfortunately, hypervigilance, because I haven't had people actually be as reliable as they would like to believe themselves to be, I've had to rely on myself. So call it what you will. I certainly don't think that I am the best that humanity has to offer. I don't think I'm the most right. Nothing of that nature. I think about things deeply. I think for whatever reason, when confronted with problems, I always have solutions, and sometimes that can be a bit maddening to people. But I don't even think that makes me better. I think it's just some weird neurolog, like it's just part of my brain programming. Like, trust me, I can't be the smartest person that humanity has to offer. Although I do think that brings up a valid and very interesting point regarding like Mensa and whatnot, just because there are different types of learning and whatnot. And the way they test for that intelligence, it's wild to me. But we talked about that a bit in regards to my feelings on academia the last time. We've gone all over the place, haven't we? I hope it is linear. I hope that I succinctly brought all my points together. It's amazing, honestly. And I owe a very special thank you just to actually one of my followers on the channel, the Yellow Flash. We had been having such great dialogues, and just I was speaking earlier to like unconditional love, and it's a great example. We don't have to know each other. We don't even have to see each other. We happen to have a few comment exchanges where I broke down a few points in a different video. And even through language barriers, even in just wanting to understand where the other person was coming from and hold space, even getting to see how we just share similar experiences, heartbreak, pain, sometimes just feeling so low, and like, what is the point of it all? We feel like we're all so different, and it's because we get, as I see it, I can't know, but I can't help but observe it and wonder if it's because we're getting so caught up in these labels as our identities and not just identifiers, i.e., I like Harry Potter, I'm a Potterhead. I don't like Harry Potter. Look at that, that's silly. We're already looking for reasons to be like, we're so different. Who cares? Do you like movies? Do you like books? There you go. So it's in the ways that we are like looking to disconnect. And that is a poor example because, as we know, as I've talked about, it's not that I think there's anything wrong with media. I don't like senseless distractions. And I know, hypocrite, right? Technically speaking, aren't I a senseless distraction? How we do what we do matters. I'm not a senseless distraction trying to take my top off, though. Let's not act like some people might not like that. But also, let's not act like I'm Supreme Overlord Manipulator, because it's not like I'm starting an OnlyFans. Like, girl, what? Actually, and not even to make it that way, for all you know, belching, passing gas, riding with my toes, you don't even know, okay? Playing my theremin. So, you don't even necessarily have to make it perverse. I'm just saying that I lost my point because I was being a jackalope. Just unconditional love. I am just wanting to help you remember that you are strong and you are sovereign and you are incredible. How do I know? Because I've definitely gone through some things that could make your toes curl, hair curl, all of it. I think the expression is actually that it would make your hair curl, but I said toes. Because, dare to be different. We can absolutely change nothing or everything. That's the great thing. And I get it. It's sometimes breaking things down into smaller bites, like, i.e., you're depressed and you don't want to eat a sandwich, so you eat a piece of meat, then you take a couple bites of a piece of bread. Maybe you're trying to save up for a car and you don't have money right now. Well, maybe perhaps you need to look into things that you can liquidate, or even, are you willing to babysit? You can technically go stand on the street and panhandle if you want to. Nothing wrong with that. You can knock on your neighbor's door to see if they need their yard work done. You have infinite possibilities. I think I said infinite because I almost said endless and infinite, and I want to own that. Infinite. You do. As long as you are still breathing. And I don't like so much of this society, which seems to want to keep us focusing on how different we are and also focusing on how powerless we are. So by all means, correct me if I'm wrong. I keep saying that. I know. It's so I can remember that for the title. But it's truly, like, there's always that, come at me, bro, fight me. I don't mean it that way, truly. Humbly, with love and respect. Because I want to understand where you're coming from. I'm trying to share with you where I'm coming from. So, just some food for thought in this instant. Don't avoid. Love recklessly. Do the things. Live without abandonment. Love each other. Take care of each other. Hell, I'm working on it myself. Mind you, it's typically with people that I align with at the library or when I'm at the grocery store or what have you. Not so much on a one-on-one level these days, and that's okay. It'll probably come again at some point. But certainly not looking at even in this way. I'm grateful for the few friends that I have. In fact, a great dialogue with a dear friend of mine. I joked, I'm like, oh, I need to be, and it's funny because again, bitter. I've been sad. I've been very sad, to be clear. And this is me sad these days. My sadness is just like, oh, I wish people were happier. I wish I saw people just genuinely wanting to connect with people, just hold space and love, even if it's just for a minute. Genuine, unafraid to mask and show up with who they are. I don't know, it's probably an existential crisis. But I know. It's because there's just been such a big thing of, cutting people off and healthy boundaries and stonewalling. Like I've said, I've cut people off too, but I guess that's what I didn't speak on. I'll always hear somebody out. Like if you really need to cut somebody off or block them and you won't talk to them or whatnot, I love you and I'm giving you hugs, but you might not be okay as you think you are. So just even in that, I guess that's why I come on. And even when I was sharing even some of my past dynamics, because if I've had to part ways with you, if you're watching this right now, I love you so much and I wish you well and I thank you. And at certain points in the character development, I'm not going to lie, I might even still be purging pain at certain points, but you have helped me grow and change and you are a part of me and I'm a part of you. And it sucks that it didn't work out, but it didn't work out. We loved each other. It's okay. And I guess that's why I pop on more than anything. Because why? And I'm not saying, put yourself in a position to constantly be victimized and brutalized. Come on. Healthy boundaries are important. Taking space is important. But you are powerful. You are divine. You are sovereign. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And I love you and I believe in you. And I really hope that at some point, if our paths cross, say hello. Say that you have seen something that I've talked about. Let's get weird. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's unpack some things. Feel free to reach out anyway. I'm loving you guys this day and always, and we are changing the world.